Town of Islip Planning Board for June 18th. Please get ready to please stand for the pledge. Did we get our flag back? I'm not sure if we got our flag back, so I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will work on getting that flag back. I don't know who took it on us. Text on. Just for the agenda, if you're a member of the community who'd like to speak, there are yellow pieces of paper in the back. Please fill one out. We'll call you up during that public hearing. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. There is a clock that runs that you can see. And we remind applicants that your presentation should be 30 minutes or less. First item on the agenda, Gary Krupnick, SP 2021-088, south side of Central Avenue, 511 feet west of Pacific Street, Hauppauge, 20 and 0 Central Avenue. Applicant requests landscape and relaxations and other site plan modifications in connection with the construction of a new two-story industrial warehouse. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Krupnick. I am the principal of ISP DIST Central, LLC. Right now, it's presently an undeveloped lot at the west end of Central Avenue in Islip, running off 111 and Pacific Street. We own several other buildings in the area right immediately behind us. It's the Safe Light building is ours as well. The lot was recently subdivided and is recorded as a subdivided lot. It was part of the larger lot that ran from our eastern property line to Pacific Street, and that's a one-story multi-unit tenant office building owned by the Capitano family. We've proposed here, and we have an IDA on this, and for a tenant that would be it's a family business coming out of Nassau County, employ in excess of 50 people. Then they are a Greek purveyor of Greek foods to the wholesale industry. They service the 5 boroughs, Westchester, Manhattan, and all of Long Island out to Montauk. That's the proposed use. It'll be a very heavy refrigeration and freezer, and then other dry goods as well. It's approximately 39,000 square feet and fits the site well. There's plenty of parking for the number of employees. Company has been growing. Volume is well up at this point in time. It's extremely profitable. It's been a family business since day one, and we're happy to get them and to bring them into Islip. There are some slight relaxations that we're asking for on the site because the site's got a bit of a history, and we needed to tuck in all of the elements. So we've requested from planning and engineering some relaxations. We do have health department approval already. We will be providing a couple of Pine Barren certificates, PBCs, to pick up the perk density. Other than that, there's not much other special about it. It's a high cube building, and there will be a 2-story office up front of about 4,500 square feet approximately for corporate operations. There's no retail or any other sale like that of products on the site. Everything is wholesale. Everything is trucked out and delivered directly to the various restaurants and users. I think that covers it. There are a couple of variances that we have asked for, relaxation, and there's an opinion, I think, from planning on this. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Thank you. We have nobody who signed up to speak on this, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Gonzalez for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a quick recap. This is a industrial 1 zoned, 2 separate parcels, 2.3 acres on the vacant lot, almost 4.2 on the improved site, with about a 4,200 square foot multi-tenant commercial building, CO'd in 1986. And the proposal is to construct an approximately 39,000 square foot warehouse and office building on the vacant lot. These properties stem from an unpermitted subdivision in 1986, which received no town approval at the time. Part of this application will be formalized with any site plan approval. The vacant lot was the subject of a proposed change of zone. That was CZ 2023-005 from Industrial 1 to ITD for a warehouse and outdoor storage of containers, which a grant was recommended by the planning board to the town board. However, the applicant subsequently withdrew that application. For the site plan mods under the jurisdiction of the planning board, the applicant requests to provide approximately slightly over 17% overall landscaping, where 20% is required, almost 43% in the front yard, where 50% is required, and a 6-stall parking relaxation, as well as to maintain slightly deficient aisle widths on the existing improved 4.2-acre property, as the construction was built slightly different than the previously approved site plan. There is a variance for an approximately 39% FAR instead of 35%, a couple side yard setbacks, retaining wall setbacks and heights that will also be required from the ZBA. In terms of landscaping and parking, the applicant did revise the site plan that is before the board right now to eliminate 5 parking stalls in the front yard, 3 in the rear. This was based on staff recommendation to boost the overall and front yard landscaping on site, as the adjacent improved property is technically overparked by 8 stalls per our parking requirements. This proposes a minor 6-stall parking relaxation while coming closer to conforming landscape requirements. The existing paved turnaround, which will be improved to current town standards, was purportedly an agreement between the prior property owner and the town, although no records could be obtained, but it was constructed on this property and eventually intended to be dedicated. This reduces the available space for landscaping on site, and for comparison purposes, this turnaround reduces the potential landscaping on site by nearly 3,400 square feet. The site would comply if not constructed. However, given that this property is at the terminus of Central Avenue, a proper turnaround is required by New York State Fire Code. The property on the north side cannot provide any portion due to the close proximity of the existing building to the street property line, and the property at the westerly end has frontage on the expressway. Therefore, in an effort to be equitable based on those conditions, staff will assess any landscape mitigation fee, which is $6 a square foot, based on accounting for the lot area post that turnaround dedication. This slightly reduces the square footage required for landscaping and reduces that mitigation fee. As part of the withdrawn change of zone, larger landscaping relaxations were granted at that time, as well as a slight parking relaxation with a large number of land bank stalls. The current proposal will scale down in terms of building size and footprint, with an increase in that landscaping provided. Lastly, a cross-access connection is being implemented between these 2 properties at the southerly end, and a recorded cross-access and shared parking agreement will be a condition of any planning board approval. I do just want to speak to that. The applicant, Mr. Krupnik, did reach out to me before the hearing. There is purportedly a potentially recorded easement agreement between the 2 properties, but my only question would be if that covers shared parking between the properties, because if it does not, something else would have to be implemented to cover that as well. So,
There was a question about the easement language, and it was filed back about 4 or 5 years ago when we took title to the property. They got hung up in COVID, so they couldn't find it. Sean called about it. We had the title company chase it down. I would like to give it to Sean or the board for the record.
Do you have a copy of it?
Yep.
We'll take it, make it part of the record. Does that address, Mr. Gonzalez?
So it addresses the easement portion, but if there's no language in there about shared parking between the 2 properties, then that would have to be either revised or a new agreement would have to be recorded on the properties. So based on that, if there are no outstanding comments, the staff would recommend the board grant the application subject to finalizing the attached site plan mod conditions with the applicant.
Questions from the board? Anything further from the applicant?
Sean, I think that was Tanner that requested it. So.
Mr. Chair, I just have one question. The CNR, have you looked at the conditions? for that'll be attached to any.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Have you looked at the conditions, the proposed conditions at this point?
Yes, we
Signed
have.
off on- And you signed off on those? You've signed off on those?
We're good with it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Gonzalez, you just need the site plan modifications made on the site plan itself, as well as the possible recording of the cross-access.
That's all written in the conditions, cross-access, shared parking,
It's all
and then
written.
as well as all the relaxations.
And they're in agreement to that, okay. Is there a motion? Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing, and I make a motion to grant the application subject to the attached site plan modifications being agreed upon
And the CNRs?
in the CNRs.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and grant the application, subject to the site plan modifications requested, as well as the covenants and restrictions. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Rulon, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2 on the agenda, Dominic Martino, SP 2023-004, south side of Montauk Highway, State Route 27A, 112 feet east of Woodland Drive, East Islip, 10-24 Montauk Highway. Applicant requests parking, landscaping, and buffer relaxations in connection with site work for an existing multi-tenant commercial building. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Board. My name is Stephen Affelt. I'm representing the owner, Dominic Martino and Martino's Holding. I'd like to give you a quick synopsis of our site and situation. Our site, located on the main thoroughfare through East Islip, is a commercial lot, zoned business, of course. Is a commercial lot, zoned business 1, is it better? Okay. And is operating units within the building in accordance with the permitted uses in the zoning code. Currently, there exists a bagel store, a pizzeria, a jeweler, and 3 stores applying for permits, and a barber shop. The shopping center has 2 main anchor tenants for the past 40 years, the bagel store and the pizzeria. They operate daily, and they have main flow of traffic through on opposite peak hours. Parking has always been available on site, and no off-street parking occurs in this location. This lot has the added advantage of a rear parking lot, which is designated as the required location for all employees and tenants to park in, so the consumers and patrons have the front parking lot to use. This site was originally approved on January 6, 1988, and it was part of a subdivision where 2 residential lots were separated off to the south, and they both have single-family dwellings on them. The construction of the commercial building commenced in '88 and was completed in '89, and during construction, some deviations occurred from the originally approved site plan that were not documented in the town's records. First being a transformer that was installed by LIPA was in an alternate location as requested by the town's fire marshal, and the refuse enclosure was also relocated to a different corner of the lot, also by order of the fire marshal. This was done on an on-site meeting between the original owner, who has since passed away, and the owner's son, who acted as translator. Since the original construction, the site has been maintained in this in the current configuration and what it was since '89. The trees planted at the time of construction have grown to maturity. The outward appearance of the building has been dutifully maintained by the owners, and the parking lot has been repaved and repainted where and as necessary, and grease traps have been replaced for the owners of the restaurants and the markets. So in general, the site is well maintained and well kept, and the reason why we're here tonight is because some of our applicants applying for applications have been forced to have a site plan review for the first time in 40 years. And here we are. So if there's any questions I could answer, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. We have nobody who signed up to speak on this, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Gonzalez for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a business one zoned approximately 1 acre property, currently improved with an 8,700 square foot multi-tenant commercial building comprised of 8 units, as the applicant stated, constructed in 1989, with most of the uses CO'd following that year. The current uses include retail, personal service, and a pizzeria. Prior approved site plan for this property dates back to 1988, and per the current property survey was not constructed in exact conformance with that approval. The relaxation requests before the board tonight mostly originate from that non-compliant construction in 1988. The building transformer located within the southerly buffer with a 10-foot setback, the refuse enclosure in the southerly buffer with a 19-foot setback, a reduction in overall landscaping of approximately 984 square feet, about 185 in the front yard. The last item is a parking relaxation, which would be necessary to accommodate ADA parking on the property, of which none currently exists. Staff has crafted draft site mod conditions, which request adequate screening for the existing transformer with evergreens, supplemental plantings of buffer trees along the existing stockade fence closest to Woodland Drive, which abuts the residential property to the south, and a slight relocation of the refuse enclosure out of the buffer to the north with the proper masonry enclosure. A slight parking relaxation to accommodate the ADA requirements and a new refuse enclosure location is supported. Any final deficiency in overall landscaping compared to the 1988 plan, as well as any buffer reduction, would be subject to a $6 per square foot landscape mitigation fee due upon site plan approval. Based on the above, staff recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions from the board? Mr. Brown?
Oh, yes, so for the applicant, you've seen the conditions that were
Yeah,
drafted?
we don't agree with all the conditions, specifically relocating the refuse enclosure and the site plan modification adjustment fee for landscaping that was not planted. We were hoping to discuss that with the board tonight if
Well,
possible.
We're here, you're here right now, so.
Excellent. So the refuse enclosure that was approved back in '88 was about 55 feet away from the closest residential dwelling. When it was ordered to be moved by the fire marshal due to access to the gas meters and the alleyway between both 7-Eleven and the building, they selected the corner location, which is 193 feet away from the closest residence. So an extra 150 feet is a very beneficial thing for that residence. It was also located or oriented to be open towards Main Street so that the residents in this house didn't have to always look at an open refuse enclosure or see over it from their second-story deck. And that being said, the refuse enclosure is 6 feet over the buffer line that was established after this site was constructed. So we're not asking for a terribly large, accommodation for 6 feet. I think that's reasonable considering it's 193 feet away from the residence. The second problem is much more technical. Some of the site plans or the approved site plan has a typo and discrepancies on the originally approved site plan, and where it says landscaping should not have been landscaping. It should always have been concrete, as it would have been the entrances and exits to the rears of these spaces, the tenant spaces. I doubt very heavily that anyone would have ever let grass open up directly to the exit doors for all the back of these tenants. So we're dealing with a typo on one situation and an accommodation that was made during construction 40 years ago.
Right, but and correct me if I'm wrong, we're just asking you to move the dumpster location towards Montauk Highway. From the
Towards
back line
Montauk
against-
Highway.
Which is against residential property.
Well, that's the problem, though. When this was installed, they were told to put it here. And moving it 6 feet, we can say moving it 6 feet, but that's a large expense. Close to $25,000 to rebuild this 6 feet forward. So I'm using a hardship, situation for the owner here. It doesn't seem really justified to have to move something that's been here for 40 years without any complaints from the residents.
But when you come in with an application, compliances change over the years. And over
Absolutely.
the course of 40 years, things change.
Yeah.
So when an application comes in, we bring things up to speed.
So we'd also
that's the reason that we're asking you to move that.
We'd also be losing a parking space or more, probably 3 if we were to follow the town's the planning board, the recommendations by the engineering department, which would further push a different relaxation to be necessary. We're at maximum capacity with all of our tenant spaces. We need 66 parking spaces in order to have all these spaces fully functional. If we're going to take another 3, how do we decide which tenant spaces get affected? We have new applicants coming in, 3 of them, and we're we don't want to have to subject, their tenant space to not being able to be fully used.
Right, they were willing to concede parking spaces to take it out of a buffer zone. Buffers are very important to, residential properties in between businesses.
It's 193 feet away, though.
Not from the property line, it's not.
Not from the property line, absolutely.
Right, which is the
absolutely,
residential
but-
property line, which is what they're asking you to move away from.
But that residential property also has a secondary setback that's incorporated into theirs. So that's a 30-foot setback to the rear of theirs, plus our 19-foot. It's a total of 50, so that they can't really get that much closer, because it's a rear yard setback as well. So we have a 50-foot total setback that shouldn't be able to be changed between this residential lot and the end of our dumpster enclosure.
And what was your other point?
The typo for the original site plan, it says landscaping, but it's clearly shown as concrete. There's a ADA ramp that juts up onto it with no line of separation. It's a much more technical issue that we really don't have much of a leg to stand on, but all the exits to these tenant spaces would have opened up onto grass surface instead of concrete surface had we followed the original site plan to the letter of the law. I think it's quite clear that we can't have grass abutting a rear exit to the shopping center.
Tanner,
That's just my, clear opinion.
can you speak to that, the typo?
So the applicant's referencing the approved site plan from 1988. I mean, if you read it, it clearly says landscaping, and it has arrows pointing to all the areas around the side and the back of the building.
I don't know about the back.
And it just wasn't built that way.
Can I ask you, have you had any conversations with the neighbor that this,
Well, the neighbor's actually been in conversation with the owner for the past 40 years. That's the original sellers. They don't want that extra landscaping replanted because it's a nuisance problem. People from the neighborhood sometimes go behind the 7-Eleven to create problems for both the neighbor and the tenants. So they prefer not to have the trees, but if we have to, they would be
I would
planted.
agree to do this.
Excuse me?
I would agree to make a motion to grant this, subject to that residential property signing an affidavit that they're not opposed to it.
Okay, that's
And
something we can
I would
work
put
out.
that out there, and see what my colleagues think.
Yeah, I would support that as well.
As would I.
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to make a motion?
Any further questions from the board? Anything further from the applicant?
No, thank you very much for hearing us.
Okay, Mr.
Brown.
Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing, grant the application subject to, and Tanner, I don't know if you have a parcel number of the residential property, but subject to the adjoining residential property, signing an affidavit that they're not opposed to the dumpsters remaining in its current location.
Nothing about the supplemental plantings, though, for the buffer? Just for the dumpster, right?
I wasn't opposed to that,
Okay.
just for the dumpster.
Some motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and grant the application. The one modification, CNRs would be subject to the property owner directly adjacent to the dumpster signing an affidavit agreeing to it staying there as opposed to moving it, and that would be the modification to the CNRs. With that, the motion to approve, second by Mr. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, it's granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Speakers.
Item 3, Firefly Real Estate Group, Inc., PB 2025-009, east side of Pine Street, approximately 480 feet north of Maple Court, Kismet, 177 Pine Street. Applicant requests a planning board special permit for a service window accessory to a permitted restaurant in the Business 1 District pursuant to 68-272.1I. Site plan modifications may be requested as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy, partner with Forcelli Deegan Tirana. The applicant's before this board this evening seeking a special use permit to operate a walk-up service window as an accessory use to the existing minor restaurant at the property. Site is located on the east side of Pine Street and was last before this board in 2018 when it secured approvals related to that use as a minor restaurant. Site is approximately 6,400 square feet and is improved with a one-story, 2,579 square foot building. Subject property houses the Moonrise Motel, a liquor store, and bar aquatic, which is the subject of this application. The minor restaurant has existed at the site for several years, and previous approvals were granted at the site to the Fire Island Tap and Margarita Villas Motel. The applicant purchased this property several years ago and has upgraded the existing facilities. However, the service window at the site needs to be legalized. The applicant is a well-regarded restaurant group with operations throughout Long Island. They've operated this site for several years. The applicant also owns and operates Dive, which is a sister restaurant to Bar Aquatic that has locations in Kismet and Ocean Beach. Now, during the interior upgrades to the Moonrise Motel, they learned that the existing service window at the site did not have the proper permits, and we're here today seeking that permit. Now, the service window is located on the north side of the restaurant and toward the rear of the property. There are approximately 20 seats for a restaurant also located outside the service window. The outdoor seating is permitted, and also both are located as far away from the adjacent residential properties as possible. The sidewalk area fronting the property will remain completely unobstructed. Now, at the service window, patrons are able to order small snacks, paninis, sandwiches, meat and cheese boards. They can also order alcohol at those windows. However, the applicant will not serve alcohol through that window. All proposed service will be in compliance with the 4 requirements set forth in the town code. They're willing to accommodate the proposed hours of operation restrictions, the noise restrictions. I understand that there may be some members of the community to speak on this application, and they have concerns with the noise at the property. Ms. Wozniak's proposed conditions prohibit any outdoor music or performance at the site. It also prohibits dancing, which I don't know that we can restrict, but we'll leave that to the town to enforce. But any alcohol will not be served through the proposed window. With the operation of Dive only 400 feet from Bar Aquatic, the service window will not be used to operate a full restaurant, nor is it expected to draw large crowds. It's aimed at offering food to the guests of the motel and the bar nearby. I have provided some support from neighboring property owners, but I understand there's some neighbors here who would like to speak on this application, so I'll wait for the board's questions until that occurs.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
We have some speakers. If I call your name, just please come up to the mic. Stephen Carter.
Stephen Carter, one of the owners of the condos. There's 20 units next door. I'm one of the 20 owners of that said property. First question I have to ask is one of the things in back to 2019, it says in 68-3 that there shall not be considered a bar, tavern, nightclub, or convenience market. Right in that. So Bar Aquatic, that is a bar. The window that they're talking about, that window was made larger. It used to be a smaller window, roughly maybe about 30 inches across. Now it's roughly about 5-6 feet across. That was done when they did the inside of the building. Other issue we have is obviously the music, and that was addressed by the other gentleman. So that's already addressed. You guys know about that. That's already in 68-272. Other thing, before the other restaurant was for prepared foods. They are working out of a shed they just purchased a convection oven. Our concern, number one, is fire, working out of a shed for anything with that, because, is that compliant with up to standards as far as a kitchen? My next thing was that the last time in 5-6 years ago was that National Seashore was to be notified of this because they were saying that they will not grant any new restaurants back from from 5 years ago. Was National Seashore notified of this? I don't know. Let's see, what else we got? Outdoor speakers film, I believe that is it, and that's all I have. Thank you. Oh, seating, sorry. The seating, it's for 20 people. Right now, it's 43 seats. So when we look at it from being neighbors on that side between the bar that shouldn't be a bar, it used to be a small restaurant, the larger, going from 20 seats to 43 seats, having the bigger window, now cooking, everything that seems to be, they just take one thing and they keep on going to keep, they're abusing their power of what, the music. Now they're doing bands, a one person band that literally goes right down a hallway when it happens. Thank you.
Bob Gelati.
Hello. Well, Steve, Steve covered most everything. I have a big problem with the music and the noise and the speakers. And, as their attorney said, it was prohibited, was never allowed, but they've been doing it every weekend, weather permitting, since the beginning of the season. So I guess they're just waiting to see if they're going to be told to really stop. The other thing is, on their original permit back in 2019 for this property, the seating was supposed to be in the rear of the building only. They have seats, which is one of the 43 seats, some of the 43 that they have, that's only supposed to have 20, all lined along our whole deck. They're smack against our property. There's 20 families in our condo building, and it's really disruptive. But my biggest thing is the live entertainment, the music. It's the quality of life really just dropped, especially this season. So that's my biggest issue.
Joseph John.
Good evening. Most of my sentiments were expressed by the last two. The other thing with the window and the convection oven in there, I don't think it's any doubt anytime soon that they're going to be serving food. It's going to be a restaurant. They've been doing it in the past. They're not supposed to have the speakers. They have the speakers all the time. They have music all the time. I had a big party on Memorial Day weekend where I could hear the band from inside my condo unit. So I think the window is a bad idea.
Jennifer Haggerty.
The only comment I really wanted to add was that when they had the special permit initially going back to 2018, 2019, the service of alcohol was supposed to be incidental to the food, and the food at the time was cheese and cheese platters and meat platters, and now it's a full-service bar. And it clearly says that is not to be considered a bar or tavern or a nightclub, and I have personally seen the service of alcohol through the bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the cards we have on this application. I'm going to turn to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the east side of Pine Street, just south of Bay Walk, and it's improved with a minor restaurant, a retail store, and a small motel. Tonight, the applicant's looking to legalize a service window that was installed as an accessory use to the existing restaurant. The restaurant itself is quite small. It's CO'd at only 215 square feet, and customers primarily make use of the outdoor seating that was granted as part of the original special permit. In addition, Fire Island tends to be busier during summer months when customers want to be outside, so a service window seems to be a great feature that will help better serve the customers in that location. So planning recommends the board grant the application, subject to the conditions which reiterate the code requirements for service windows. And, you know, based on the community's feedback, a lot of those issues are addressed in the original special permit conditions. So I just want to reiterate that the property should be complying with the original special permit conditions in order to mitigate all of those problems. So recommend that too.
Yep, Kelly, what are they allowed as far as food, alcohol, and music as of right now?
So they're allowed to serve food and alcohol. The main, I guess, source should be, it should be principally food with like alcohol being like secondary, I guess. So they serve more food than alcohol, you'd be considered a restaurant. And then they're not allowed to have any sort of outdoor entertainment or speakers or music or anything of that nature.
Right, but they are allowed, because I do remember the application going back 5 or 6 years, and it was very limited food that we agreed to at the time.
Well, the conditions are just the basic conditions that they're a restaurant, so you have to take a look at the definition of, I guess, of a restaurant in our code, and that, you know, sometimes there's, sometimes, restaurant and bar can kind of, I guess, overlay with each other, but they're supposed to be a restaurant where, you don't have live music, you don't have people dancing, you don't have people only ordering alcohol, staying, open late, things of that nature. So there's a bunch of different factors that kind of go into it, but as far as limiting specific types of food, that was never part of the special permit application originally.
Right, and I had one question for the applicant, if he could speak to the comments that we had in reference to the live music and everything that's been ongoing, and the 43 seats opposed to 20 some odd.
I can speak to the music. They do on occasion have outdoor music. I am told that it ends at 8 p.m., that many members of the community are very satisfied with it. Nonetheless,
Not the
as
ones we
part,
heard from.
what's,
The ones we heard from.
nonetheless, they understand that should this board grant the requested application, they can no longer have that. And any music has to be moved indoors. And as Ms. Wozniak indicated, it's 215 square feet within that building. So it makes it nearly impossible. As for the number of seats, I don't know that. I don't know that more than 20 exist, but that's an enforcement issue to be reported to the fire marshal, right? That's who would regulate that. I'll also remind the board that this is a special permit, which is a presumed permitted use so long as the applicant meets all of the additional criteria. The proposed conditions speak directly to the 4 additional criteria set forth in the town code, and the applicant is willing to agree to those.
I just, same question, I just want to hear from you on the record that entertainment, any outdoor entertainment whatsoever would cease to exist if this were to be approved?
They are willing to agree to that, yes.
In terms of the number of seats, Ms. Wozniak, what is approved? How many seats?
It is 20 seats, the prior CO indicates 20.
Yeah, it's 20 seats, and the floor plan that they submitted with this application matches the floor plan that was part of the original special permit.
Okay, so I would just suggest to the community that if there are more than 20 seats out there, that you stop into town hall and let them know that, so they can send out an inspector to make sure it's down to 20 seats. The last question I have, either for you, Ms. Wozniak or Mr. Kennedy, is just the issue that was raised about an oven being set up in a shed on the property, or cooking going on in a shed?
I don't know about this shed or the convection oven. One of the gentlemen raised this issue to me before the hearing.
Okay.
I'm happy to speak to the applicant about that and explain to them that that is not permitted as part
Okay,
of this
so-
application.
The music, the seats down to 20, the convection oven in the shed not permitted. With all those understandings and the conditions, I'm okay with it if those 3 are met. Are there further questions from the board, Mr. Rulon?
Yeah. Is there an actual bar in the place?
Yes, there's a little service bar, but you cannot be seated at it. They'll hand it to the people as they come through the door, the customers, or they have a waitress. Patrons will order at the window, and the waitress will bring it out to them at their table. But there's no bar in a traditional sense that you're going to sit at a bar and have a couple drinks,
And
which is why you need the service window.
the applicant will so people will have to go into the place to get alcohol, and only use that window for food.
Oh, they understand that,
They
yes.
totally
Yes,
understand it
yes.
and will enforce it.
It's part of the approved conditions.
Do you know the answer to the question of what percentage of the business is food versus what percentage of the business is alcohol?
I don't. I can find that for the board.
Mr. Wilson? Yeah, I don't want to, we don't normally come back for public comment as part of the process. Is there something?
I just have a question.
Just please state your name. I'll take your question and we'll try and answer it for you.
I sent an email in, and I raised a couple of questions.
Yeah, please state your name for the record.
Peter McCarthy. I sent an email the other night, and while all this sounds interesting, a lot of things that have been said have not been what the realities have been. And if you understand where this place is, where they have had fire and cooking, it's next door to the reeds of a national seashore, which is highly combustible. And my question is, has Islip Town changed the requirements for kitchens with flame retardant items? Have they changed the requirements for restrooms? Because when you have a restaurant and you're drinking alcohol, you might get to a point where you have to use a facility. There are no facilities on this property. I would tell you the special permit that was granted at some point in time was really for what was originally a candy store and a liquor store, and that was it. So the whole process here has been expanded, exacerbated, whatever you want to call it, to where it is now. But those are questions about flame retardant, since I have a substantial investment next door, and restroom facilities. Have we changed the laws? Because I'm not aware of that. Handicap access as well. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Wozniak, I'm not sure if you can answer those. Is it subject to a state fire code or?
Yes, I mean, the building has a CO, so I would only assume that it met building code and fire codes. If something has changed since then that the building department's not aware of. I see a bathroom on the floor plan, so there are restroom facilities in the restaurant. I could at least answer that question. There is a bathroom.
There is
there.
a bathroom at the site.
And the shed we're going to address.
The shed I will address with the client, yes.
Are there further questions from the board?
Yeah, I had one, and Ms. Wozniak, one of the speakers mentioned that National Seashores would not permit any more restaurants. Did we have any contact with National Seashores with this?
Yes, we sent them a public notification letter, and we didn't receive any response.
But Mr. Brown, this is not a new proposed restaurant. This is an existing minor restaurant that was previously approved. We are seeking the accessory window to it.
Correct.
There further questions from the board? Anything further from the applicant?
No, thank you.
Is there a motion from the board? Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we close the application, the public portion, and grant the application subject to the conditions that we laid out here today, which is the shed being checked with, and the CNRs. Has your client looked at the CNRs with the music and?
We had significant discussion about this yesterday, yes, and they are willing to agree to that.
Okay, so based on those conditions, I would make the motion that we grant the application.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and grant the application subject to the covenants and restrictions. Is there a second to that? Ms. Cruz? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The application is granted.
Thank you.
And I just tell the community that if there are the seats in the rest, please reach out to Public Safety. They will send somebody out there to verify the seats are out there. Music's in the covenants now, the shed cooking is in the covenants now. Just make the town aware of it, they'll go out there and look at it. I can tell you, we worked with Ms. Kennedy for a long time, also bring it to Mr. Kennedy's attention.
I've provided them my contact information as well.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, Planning Board application, public hearing, Eric Dornby, RA PB 2025-010, southwest corner of Lowell Avenue and Oceanside Street, Islip Terrace, 34-48 Lowell Avenue. Applicant requests a Planning Board special permit for a minor restaurant in the Business 1 District pursuant to 68-272.1A. Site plan modifications are also required as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Eric Bjornby. I'm the architect of record for the project. The application we're here for today, it's a tenant space in the middle of a strip mall. It's 1,415 square feet in a Business 1 district. The previous tenant was a Chinese takeout, and they had a kitchen and a small seating area. The proposed application is for a Papa John's Pizza. It'll be a takeout restaurant, and there will be no seats on premises. The customer area is only about 200 square feet, and the remaining 1,415 square feet, 1,215 square feet shall be used for staff for the kitchen, prep area, and storage. The hours of operation will be 7 days a week, with 11 a.m. until 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. through 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. So we're requesting a modification to the permit conditions. The majority of the business that Papa John's receives is from third-party applications such as Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub, as well as their own delivery service. Approximately 30% of the customers pick up their own orders. The busiest hours of operation that we anticipate will be from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. Typically, in-store workers are dropped off or take public transportation. The stores typically receive their deliveries twice a week after the stores close, and they will not affect traffic or parking. And we believe that this application is appropriate.
Thank you. I think we have one person to speak on this.
Anthony Barbado?
Anthony Barbado, 261 Oceanside Street, Islip Terrace, New York. We live diagonally across the street from this shopping center. Over the years, we've had many, many, many problems. We have a big problem. Cope has been there many times with noise, with people hanging around. For this restaurant to stay open till 1 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know if he said 2 in the morning, that would be horrible to live there. I've been a resident there for 38 years. I've been fighting the owner of that shopping center for 38 years. Right now, a restaurant opened up in that shopping center. They have a grease garbage can where they throw grease. It's not on the CO. It's not allowed. I understand I can contact the enforcement department about that. I do want people in the shopping center, but a Papa John's is not a restaurant that I want there at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm shocked that none of my neighbors have come because we've had this conversation with the neighbors, and I just think it'll be a horrible living condition. We have the 7-Eleven across the street as it is, and we have terrible conditions. Cope is out there all the time, and I think this is just going to add to it. We have major traffic on Oceanside Street. This young fella is saying they're not going to have any problems with deliveries. There's only one way to deliver, and that's on a residential street. That's Oceanside Street. You can't deliver anywhere else. That's all I have, so I'd like the board to please consider not approving this because of the nature of the business in that shopping center. Thank you all for your time. How are you? And how are you?
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the southwest corner of Lowell Avenue and Oceanside Street in Islip Terrace, and it's improved with a 9,900 square foot retail building with a mix of uses. The applicant's looking to obtain a special permit for a Papa John's in unit number 44 of the building. The change in use will involve interior alterations only. However, it's important to note the site will need to come into compliance with the most recent approved site plan. In addition, a parking relaxation will also be required as the new use increases the required parking. However, the applicant is not proposing any seats and the restaurant will be takeout only, so there should be minimal parking impact. Based on this, planning recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions, which require the improvements shown on the most recent approved site plan to be completed before a CO can be issued for the use. Planning has no objection to the request for change in hours. The restaurant is primarily takeout. I can only assume that, you know, hopefully only like Uber Eats or deliveries will come later at night, and they don't serve any alcohol, so no one's going to be staying there and loitering for a while.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. I had a couple of questions for the refuse for the grease. Are we aware of that in any way, shape, or form? Obviously, it would not.
aware of that, but I can check.
So something to check into. And then I just asked Sean to check if there are any open violations on, you know, noise or loitering or anything like that. There was nothing in the system as of right now as it relates to that. In terms of the hours of operation, Ms. Wozniak suggested that the possibly cutting back on the hours, is that a required time for your client?
I mean, that's pretty much a standard for the business. They have the overnight, the late night delivery. We could limit it to, so there is the way that the site is broken up, there's a parking lot in the rear and a parking lot in the front. The parking lot in the rear is the one that goes out onto Oceanside Street, and then the one in the front goes out onto Lowell Avenue. So if you wanted to limit the drivers to be coming through the front, and again, their business doesn't really require a lot of on-site parking for their staff. The majority of them get dropped off, and they might have like a manager's car or something, which I guess would be in that back lot. So they're not going to have a lot of traffic coming in and out of the backside. On the Lowell Avenue side, where they would enter in, they're going to be coming in and out. They're not sitting there for a long time. The car is going to be coming in, picking up the food, and then going out. I don't think it's going to be a large part of the business, but I think it's part of the brand requirement to be holding those hours.
Do you know what percentage of the business happens after midnight?
I don't have the number for the exact number, but I know it's a part of the brand.
The other restaurant that's in there, what are their hours of operation? Do you know?
The special permit conditions are the same as the ones here, which I believe are 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I mimicked those.
So,
From
and
the
then
other restaurant.
you have the extended hours in there till 2 a.m.?
No, I don't. I got that call at the end of the day, and I discussed it with the applicant. You know, like I said, I could put in a condition that they won't have alcohol. Like I said, they don't have seating, so typically, you know, with those two combinations, later hours, planning is okay with, but I can understand here with the complaints and things like that, maybe 2 a.m. might be a little bit, but maybe 11 a.m. might be a little too restrictive for the applicant, so.
So, I mean, I think we were ready to go forward on this tonight at the 11 p.m. I think adding that in at the last minute, something that probably needs to be discussed.
Right.
If you want to move forward at the 11 p.m., I think the board may be okay with it. Certainly at the 2 a.m. is something that's going to have to be reserved and further discussed, at least from where I stand. I'm not sure others stand. Mr. Rulon, you have a question?
No, I
Oh,
would
just
have
so
no problem with the 11 p.m., but I
Okay.
would have a major problem with the 2 p.m. Way
So, yeah, if I could just address that. So a restaurant that has alcohol and food and the people are going there, you know, people would be staying there, enjoying themselves, and then making noises, making their ways to their cars and things like that. And I can understand at 11 p.m., you know, this isn't a business district. You know, it's takeout. It's a very quiet business. I do a lot of these stores all over, and they have a good reputation. It's a good company, and it's not like a party time thing. It's just a late night food delivery, you know. So it's not a restaurant that's going to be open. They don't serve alcohol, you know. It's delivering pizzas. I don't think it would be a nuisance to the neighborhood. And again,
I would just say, from my opinion, I was ready to go on the 11 p.m., adding the 2 a.m., which only Ms. Wozniak was made aware of today. would need time for us to discuss with the board. So if in fact you want to go forward with 2 a.m., I think reserving is the way to go, so we can have those discussions.
Okay.
If you're okay with 11 p.m., I think, from what I'm hearing from the fellow board members, 11 p.m. is okay.
Again,
So-
it's a brand thing, so
So
you know,
reserve and then-
I can't, I can't.
And so I think we need to reserve and have that
Okay.
discussion internally. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, Mr. Barbado that spoke before you brought up a lot of points, and he's a member of the community for 38 years. So I would like to reserve also tonight, Mr. Chairman, to go through some of
So,
the grease, the noise, the loitering, to discuss the hours, and definitely if we could limit the access after a certain time to Lowell Avenue instead of going down Oceanside Street.
so if I could address a few of those things. So in regards to the grease, I've been in touch with the health department. We're putting in a new septic system that's going to be in the back. It's going to be an external grease trap. It will be maintained and a new system, so that will be met. The property, there is a site plan going forward with the owner. So the owner is looking to make improvements to the property. That's an ongoing application, and the improvements will be made. That's part of this agreement, that those will be, that there'll be progress with those. So there is looking to be, improvements there. And I don't know that, 30-year history with two people who aren't getting along really affects this application, but I think, the owner is trying to put his best foot forward and populate the center with nice businesses, good businesses, and keep the area improved.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and reserve decision this evening. Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Moriarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, we are reserved.
Okay.
Reach out certainly to Ms. Wozniak and address the issues that Mr. Brown and we had discussed.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lulu. Thank you, board. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Ian Coughlin, PB 2025-012, north side of Montauk Highway, State Route 27A, approximately 84 feet east of Park Avenue, Bayshore, 49 West Main Street. Applicant requests a modification of PB 2017-041 in order to increase the number of outdoor seats and gross floor area. Site plan modifications are also requested as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ian Coughlin of 49 West Main Street, representing myself. Here to answer any questions you might have about the proposed application.
That was quick. We had no cards on that one, so I'm going to turn right to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the north side of Main Street, approximately 85 feet west of Park Avenue in downtown Bayshore, and it's currently the site of Picado, a Mexican-style restaurant. Tonight, the applicant's looking to modify previous special permit conditions to increase the outdoor seating. Previous conditions limited the seating to 20. Now the applicant's proposing 44 outdoor seats. The number of indoor seats is remaining the same as previously approved. The outdoor seating area is located north of the building on tax lot 81, and the applicant has provided a copy of the lease for that area to be utilized by this restaurant. The seating, although outdoor, is utilized year-round, as there is a roof-over structure that has removable side panels that are taken off during the warmer months and put back up during the colder months. Since this structure is up year-round, it will need a certificate of occupancy from the building division, and therefore will also increase the gross floor area of the restaurant. The outside seating has been erected and operating without benefit of permits, but there have been no complaints thus far. The applicant has also stated the dumpster utilized for the restaurant is located on the northern portion of tax lot 81 and is not located on town property. Based on this, planning recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions, which require the applicant to provide the standard dumpster enclosure to ensure it remains in the appropriate location and not on town property.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. Are there questions for the applicant or Ms. Wozniak?
Yeah, I just have one question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Moriarty, then Mr. Rulon.
Thank you. Is there any outdoor music associated with the outdoor seating?
Background music, not live music.
Background music, so there's no live music here?
No, sir.
And what are the hours of operation?
We open at 11 a.m. on the weekends and Friday, and we do last seatings at 10 p.m. Last seatings being a restaurant, we don't have a hard cutoff. It's just a casual, slow close because we're a restaurant. We do about 60% food, 40% alcohol.
Yep. I don't have an objection to this application, but I guess the concern I would have is potentially opening the window to expanding additional outdoor seating, not necessarily with this application, but with some others. I remain concerned that we haven't really seen how these outdoor areas will play out in a public way. I know there are a number of large outdoor upstairs bars that are coming online in the next few months in Bayshore, and I remain a little bit concerned about, whether or not they're going to be causing some sound issues for residents in the area. So, again, I have no objection right now for your application, but I just wanted to make clear on the record that I don't want us to be I'm concerned about us setting a precedent for significant expansions of outdoor seating and public bars, and I don't want this application to be viewed in any way like that, so.
Understood, and if I could just add in that I am landlocked between two adjacent parcels. The area in question is a 60 by 60 square between the Bolton Center, has about probably a 40-foot wall, and 55 West Main, that is a two-story doctor's office that ceases operations at 6 p.m. And on my other side, you have American Standard, that's another 20-foot wall. So I'm nestled in between those three walls, which would effectively block the sound from traveling and also stop me from expanding past what I'm physically able to do
Yeah,
with
and
those buildings.
I do appreciate that, and I want to make clear that I don't really have any issue at all with your application, but there are a number of rooftop bars
Understood.
that are coming online, and I don't want those applications those applicants to suddenly think that there's an opportunity to do significant expansions without seeing how this process plays out, so.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Rulon?
Yes. Good evening. What's the place called now? Picado?
Picado Mexican.
Picado Mexican. Is there a bar outside now?
I would like to apply for one. We have a mobile service cart that we use for private events such as showers, to do soda, coffee, tea, and hide the computers for ringing in food, but we don't use it to make alcoholic beverages.
Okay, so there's just a bar inside, but there's a possibility of one outside.
I would like to apply within permission. I know there are other ones in town that are outdoor, so my intent is to legalize the space that is behind the building and just do everything the right way and just, cater to the crowd. Touching on what you guys touched on in the previous case, it is not a bar in the sense of I sit at this bar. It would be a service bar to make cocktails for the customers sitting on the back patio. When the place was originally signed my lease in 2020, there was no back. Then the pandemic struck, so we had to pivot, outdoor seating. When I designed the interior, we designed the bar and the kitchen for the seats inside the building, not necessarily outside of the building. So to meet the demand of that customer load, I would like to eventually apply for a service bar outside, not a sitting bar, not a hangout bar, just I am a bartender that makes drinks for people sitting down in said seats. Just being transparent on my future intent, but for right now, no, there is no bar.
Okay. Kelly, can anything be put in the conditions in regards to any of that, or no?
No, but you can't have an outside bar. You need a special permit, so we couldn't have it anyway, but, always reiterating it's never a bad thing. So I could add that.
I'm just concerned about the percentages food to liquor
No, it's more of
in
a
regards to
time.
being outside,
Yeah.
too.
It's more of a time of service to get that drink to the customer's table, taking a half hour versus taking 15 minutes. People became hangry when you take time on service. So
I
it's
got you.
more to expedite service and/or cater to a shower when there's ladies there just, casually doing a shower things, not doing party things. We're a restaurant first and foremost.
Okay, and what are your hours of operation on the weekends?
We open at 11 a.m. and we do last seating at 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Correct.
And the last seating.
Yes.
So after that, you're done.
Yeah, we don't sit any more customers. As a restaurant, we
Okay.
let you sit down. We don't say, hey, order your food and get out. We let them go through the natural progression of their dining service.
I was just afraid of people hanging out and drinking
No,
outside.
in the back patio peters off a lot earlier. If anything, they hang out the inside bar where there's actually seats.
Okay.
Any further questions from the board? I just want to add to Mr. Rulon's question and to your request for a permit for an outside bar. The town code specifically prohibits an outdoor bar for an accessory use. You'd have to, for a restaurant. So you'd have to probably come back before this board. It's not just a permitting
Understood.
process. It's-
Correct.
It's right, but just so you know, the odds are stacked against you that
Yes.
it's specifically excluded or prohibited in the current town code. Are there any further questions from the board?
I do not.
Anything further from the applicant?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Mr.
Moriarty.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to grant the application subject to the attached conditions, which I assume you've seen at
Yes,
this
sir.
point. Okay.
Motion by Mr. Moriarty to grant the application subject to the covenants and restrictions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I'll note for the record that Mr. Wilson is recused on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item 6 on the agenda, Planning Board application, public hearing, TDT Sayville LLC, PB 2025-014, north side of Main Street, State Route 27A, approximately 140 feet east of Cherry Avenue, West Sayville, 63 and 65 Main Street. Applicant requests a modification of TC 4040 in order to increase the size of an existing restaurant, permit outdoor seating, remove the conditions for a buffer, and modify the dumpster enclosure requirement. Site plan modifications are also requested as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Prunier. I am the tenant of 6365 Main Street. I'm here to open the restaurant, and in doing so, I had to go to the planning board to get these restrictive covenants lifted, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report, and we'll come back for questions. Oh, actually, no, we do have one person who wants to speak on this one. Mr. Brown?
Sit down for a minute.
Valerie Mazarowski.
Hi. First of all, I want to say that I am super excited for Dave to open up next to me. And I am just here because I just want to voice my concern with the back barrier that he's talking about, his outside dining side, where if that barrier comes down, it abuts my emergency exit. So I just want to make sure that I voice that I feel like if it comes down, that something has to go back up for privacy, noise, and safety of my clients for when, if God forbid, there's an emergency going back out in that back alley. But that's it. I really am excited for him. So thank you so much for listening.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What kind of business do you have?
I'm a bridal suite. A bridal suite, so it's where the brides come to me to get ready, and I also do like small showers. And if there's an emergency, that's where the fire marshal was saying that they have to go through. And so once I heard about this, I just wanted to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence to come here in front of you and just stress my concerns.
Okay. And what are your hours of operation?
My operations really depend on the client. Could be there till 3 o'clock. I could be there till 8 o'clock. Nothing past 10 o'clock. I'm an early closing
Okay, thank you.
business. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Wozniak on this one. Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the north side of Main Street, approximately 140 feet east of Cherry Avenue, in West Sayville, across from the West Sayville Fire Department. Tax lot 15's improved with a 1,000-square-foot restaurant, and tax lot 16's unimproved with outdoor seating accessory to the restaurant. Tonight, the applicant's looking to legalize outside seating and remove buffer and dumpster conditions associated with the original special permit that was issued in 1993. The first condition the applicant is looking to remove is the prohibition of outdoor seating. In 1993, the town board denied the applicant's request for outside seating because there were parking concerns. The property, although operating without proper approvals, had in the past been operating with outside seating, and the town did not receive any parking complaints. In addition, other businesses in this row of buildings on Main Street are a mix of office and retail uses, which tend to have different peak parking times as restaurants. So during peak times, the restaurant parking shouldn't conflict with the neighboring businesses. The second condition the applicant's looking to remove is the requirement for a dumpster enclosure. Currently, the applicant keeps their dumpster on the adjacent property to the north, which is an alleyway that several other businesses also keep their dumpsters, because this location is the only location where the trucks can serve the dumpsters. So planning has no objections to the removal of this condition, since a dumpster is not located on this site. And the applicant did provide a letter from the property owner of the alleyway granting him permission to put his dumpster on their property. The third condition the applicant's looking to remove is a requirement for fencing and buffer plantings along the northern property line. As mentioned before, there's an alleyway in between the property and the neighboring residential property, and no dumpster is kept on site. Fencing and buffer plantings along the northern property line don't serve that much of a purpose, as it will only slightly be blocking the rear of the buildings. However, the neighboring tenant does have concerns regarding visual and noise impacts to her business, and requested that fencing and a row of planting be installed along the outside seating area. So based on this, planning recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions, which do require a buffer fence and plantings along the rear of tax lot 16 only in order to screen the outside dining area from the adjacent neighbors.
Have you reviewed the CNRs and you okay with them?
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Wozniak, just to is it Mazurowski's hopefully I didn't butcher your name there. This concerns, can you just ask, obviously, building or a fire marshal just to take a look at that to make sure it's addressed so there are no issues as relates to that? So if you're okay with the CNRs, is there a motion?
Well,
Mr.
before
Brown,
that, yeah,
comment?
I just wanted to clarify, well, if this is approved tonight, when would you be open?
I just have a couple inspections to do. We should be open in 3 weeks.
That would be nice for the community. And also, you're a new owner there, so some of the things that they spoke to before, you weren't the owner of the
Correct.
restaurant.
I'm the new tenant. I took over actually in like October.
Right, and you're gonna legalize, as per this application, the outdoor seating and everything, so I think we'll be good.
Anything further from the board? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I'd like to
Brown.
make a motion to close the public hearing and to grant the application, subject to this CNRs being executed by the client.
The motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and grant the application subject to the CNRs. Is there a second? Second. We got three of you. I'm going to go with Mr. Wilson on that one. Second by Mr. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the application is granted.
Thank you.
Item 7 on the agenda, Town Board application, public hearing, 10 Grand Boulevard Realty LLC, CZ 2025-009, southwest corner of Grand Boulevard and Howells Road, Deer Park, 1050 Grand Boulevard. Applicant requests a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5097 in order to increase the outside storage area of construction equipment. Site plan modifications may be required as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Sorry for the long walk up to you guys. I just need 1 second to get some exhibits out. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. My name is Rachel Shelfo. I'm a land use, zoning, and municipal attorney with the law firm of Farrell Fritz, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York. Very nice to be with you all tonight. With me to help in this presentation is Miss Jackie Paranto. She is an engineer from the firm of Key Engineering, and we will both be presenting this application tonight. May I proceed? Thank you. Thank you. This application is for property located at 1050 Grand Boulevard in Deer Park. It is either the first parcel in the town of Islip or the last parcel in the town of Islip, depending on what your perspective is. The lot immediately to the west is located in the town of Babylon, excuse me. This is the southwest corner of Grand Boulevard and Howells Road. The property is 12.09 acres, and it is zoned Industrial 2, which is the town's heavy industrial district. This application has been before this board in the past. 2012 to 2013, there was a prior town board approval, TC number 5097, which was a modification of deed, covenants, and restrictions associated with an earlier application. GAR site, that was TC number 2453, and the application was to allow for the outside storage of heavy construction equipment. At that time, the applicant proposed 2 building additions, 12,485 square feet and 14,460 square feet, and site work was proposed at that time in addition to the outside storage. They did not pursue the additions. However, they did conduct the site work and received a CO for the site work, as well as COs for the interior alterations that were done at that time, as well as the fire sprinkler system. So I have those COs tonight. If it would be helpful to the board, I'd be happy to hand them forward before the end of my presentation.
Michelle, I think we've certainly all reviewed the application. There are 3 issues I'll ask you to just focus on. I mean, you're welcome to take 30 minutes as you please, but to maybe try and get those 3 issues addressed.
I would be happy to address your 3 issues.
Things that I've heard from fellow board members, planting of the buffers, removal of the sidewalk, and planting of the trees and the hedges where there are gaps. Those are the 3 issues, I think. The rest of the stuff, you're welcome to put on the record if you'd like to, but I think we've reviewed this and are okay with the rest, subject to those three. But
Okay,
it's
thank you.
your presentation.
I do appreciate that focused-in approach, and I'm happy to address those for you. So as part of this, because we are asking for increased outside storage, we are looking to really bolster the screening here. And Jackie Paranzo could help me with that part of it, and then we could talk about filling in any areas where there may be blanks.
Great.
So what we're proposing here is 50-foot of buffer to the south, where we have the Brentwood School District. And just a quick note about the Brentwood School District. We did reach out to them, both my client and myself, and we spoke with two officials there, and I just want to put that on the record, Mr. Chairman. First, we spoke with Mr. Cruz, who is the facilities director. He's in charge of buildings and grounds. He did not have any opposition to this proposal. They did feel that what we were proposing would be an improvement. Then I wanted to also speak with someone in administration, and I spoke with Ms. Stacy O'Connor, who is the assistant superintendent for the school district. She stated that they didn't have any issue and that they did not plan to appear before the board. She declined my offer for a formal meeting. So I just wanted you to know and put on the record that we did that outreach. Okay, so let's talk about buffers. Yeah.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Jacqueline Paranto, Key Civil Engineering, 664 Blue Point Road, Holtzville, New York, 11742. Here representing the applicant. So in regard to landscaping, so we're proposing what I would consider a superior landscape design to buffer the outdoor storage areas. We're proposing a double row of 7-foot tall evergreens, a mix of eastern red cedars, white pines, Norway spruces, green giant arborvitae. Those 7-foot tall evergreens will be planted at the top of a 3-foot high berm. So the initial impact would be a 10-foot buffer. So, an immediate screening would be provided at the onset of planting.
Is there a specific tab you're referring to in the booklet?
There's a landscape plan that's in there, and then at the back there are these renderings that you see here. There's a full set of views where I've only put a few.
I could get you that exhibit.
Just so we can follow along as she speaks,
Sure.
that would be great. Go ahead. I think it's number 8, but I could be wrong.
So these evergreen trees they grow about 2 foot a year, and they can grow as tall as 40 or 50 feet. So, over time, they're going to continue to thrive, thank you, and become more of a buffer. In front of that berm along Howells Road, we're proposing street trees at 20 foot on center. And so we're going to continue that along the frontage to provide a little bit more green to the property.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just grab the mic for a sec. Just for the record, the landscape plan is at Exhibit 6, and then you were correct when you said Exhibit 8 as well. That's when we get into the 3D landscape renderings, and the additional views follow there.
Thank you.
Yes. So if you want, I can walk you through that Exhibit 8. So if you look at view number 1 is if you're in the school parking lot. As you might be aware, they have these solar shade structures in their parking lot. So you can see that these trees are going to provide a nice buffer, and you're not going to see that equipment from there. View number 2 is similar from that same parking lot at a different angle. View number 3 is a little bit from Udall as you're kind of like approaching the school in that direction. The first page was a key map that kind of points you to where these views are taken. Again, 4 is a little bit more as you're coming down Howells. You can see the existing curb cut on Howells Road in view number 5, which obviously provides an opening to the corridor to the row of trees with the driveway. Similar to view 6 from a different perspective, kind of looking south. View number 7 is showing that Howells Road, and there's a 40-foot buffer where all of these trees are being planted. and that's buffering the main outdoor storage area, which we're referring to as Storage Area A. And then we have view number 8, kind of showing the same. So I think I'm getting to the chairman's area of, view number 9, which is what I would say is the north side of the property. So that's in front of the fence. And I'm just going to take a side minute because I just want to explain a little bit of the operation of the site. On Grand Boulevard are 2 curb cuts, and that's where the visitors and most of, the access is off of there. And there's a fence set back from Grand Boulevard. And everything from the fence towards Grand is more for visitors. It's it's parking for the employees, so that's the main area. Everything behind that fence is the outdoor storage. So the area I think that you're concerned with some lack of planting is the area that's just part of the parking lot frontage, not the outdoor storage frontage, which is why we weren't necessarily focusing on additional landscaping there other than the street trees at 20 foot on center.
So on Exhibit 9, then you are doing additional plantings, is that my understanding?
One more time?
On Exhibit 9, or View 9, there are additional plantings there?
There are street trees being proposed there.
There should be hedges in accordance with the subdivision regs.
You're requesting additional plant material, is my understanding, and my thought is that we would provide a evergreen hedge of about 3 foot high that could block the headlights of the vehicles that are parked in that
You can
parking
read my
lot.
mind, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
And just
Perfect.
to be clear for the record, we're talking at the curve. Like basically where the front-facing building on Grand changes over, there's a curve. And that area was a little bit less densely proposed for planting. But we were able to speak to our client today, and we are fine with adding in some additional planting in that little curved section.
Thank you.
So that was one of the 3.
Yes, well,
I think
you got,
that
you
might
spoke,
have been
that's 2.
That
That's
was
the,
2,
that's the
okay.
buffers and the trees and the hedges.
The buffers, the trees, and the
Removal of the
hedges.
sidewalk, somebody has to
Okay.
speak to.
So I'll start, and then if you want to jump in. Sorry, you threw us for a loop today. Hot bench, I like that. So we talked about the curve and our ability to increase the plantings there. That's not a problem. So I did see that in the sloped area, also along that curve, there is kind of a dark-colored asphalt that is extremely broken up and not really, serving any purpose. I mean, our suggestion for that would be to clean it up, take it out, and grass it to continue the nice sort of continuation of the landscaping that is going to be coming off of Grand and connecting to Howells. It's kind of on an incline, so I think that that would be kind of difficult and maybe unsafe even. I wore a traffic safety hat in my last job, and I don't know that that's the right spot to encourage sort of walking,
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why we said removal, I think.
Okay,
planting, Subject
got
to
it.
the town engineer telling me I'm crazy, I think that's probably I'm in agreement with you.
I agree. I think it would be a little bit of an attractive nuisance to kind of put something else down there. I think removal and grassing it and making it look as nice as the rest of the site fronting on Grand now, and what we're going to have really nice on Howells. Yeah, and that area is in the right-of-way, but the clients are amenable to cleaning that up, removing it, and then grass. Yeah. There was a third issue that I think has gotten away from me.
That was the third, the
That was the
buffers,
third one,
removal
the
of the sidewalks,
sidewalks.
plants, trees, and shrubs, so
Okay.
unless you'd like to add anything else, we're willing to listen. I will turn to Mr. Colgan for a report. There's nobody here who wants to speak on the application.
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Your submission was very thorough.
Thank you. So I would ask for this to be admitted into the official record because this is basically a summary of everything I wanted to go in, Mr. Chairman, and
We'll
I know
happily
that-
make that part of the record.
Thank you, I appreciate that. If the board is so inclined, we would ask for an approval, subject to our working with the planning department to finalize any conditions of approval. As we started this with them several months back, first thing was a meeting with Sean to go over this. I have every faith that we would continue to work together and come up with an acceptable list of restrictions that this board, and conditions that this board would be amenable to.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we have every faith in Mr. Colgan as well to work with you and resolve any issues that are out there. But I'm going to turn to Mr. Colgan for a staff report.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll be brief. The history of this site is already in the staff reports. Just to reiterate, the applicant will be working to restore the buffers that were otherwise required. The prior approval back in, I believe, 2013. There's no other issues identified by the Division of Engineering. They do need a landscaping relaxation and probably what's a reasonable 29 stall parking relaxation. The staff has had conversations with the applicant about all the improvements that the chairman and the applicant have discussed earlier. So the staff defers to the board as to whether to reserve decision or grant subject to finalizing covenants. We're fine with either. It does sound like we could go along with moving ahead with the understanding that we'll work out the covenants with the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Colgan. Are there any questions from the board? Anything further, Ms. Gelfo, that you'd like to add?
No, I think that we're good to rest on that. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for a thorough submission, which makes our lives easier preparing for this evening and working with the planning staff. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd make a motion to close the public hearing, grant the application subject to conditions that will be agreed to by the planning staff and the applicant.
It's a motion by Mr. Moriarty to close the public hearing and grant the application, subject to an agreement between the planning staff and the applicant on the CNRs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rulon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the application is granted. Thank you. Site plan modification decision item, Michael Sellis, SP 2025-036, south side of Church Street, 150 feet east of Locust Avenue, Bohemia, 868 Church Street. Applicant requests parking and dimensional relaxations in connection with a change of use from a professional office to a medical office within a multi-tenant commercial building. Have a good night. Good evening to the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Jacqueline Peranto, Key Civil Engineering. I'm here representing the owner of the property. Again, Key Civil Engineering, I'm the principal of the company. We're located at 664 Blue Point Road, Holtsville, New York, 11742. And I'm representing the owner of the Sellis Group, LLC. I will keep it brief. Our application tonight is an amendment to the record site plan to legalize the existing and proposed professional and medical office tenants that exist within the mixed-use building, as well as the required parking associated with those uses. It proposes minimal site work to restripe the southern parking row for an additional ADA stall. It also proposes 8 land bank parking stalls along the east side of the property. For background, my client purchased the site in 2021. Prior to that, the Suffolk County PBA had owned and occupied the building, and as was noted on the record plan from 1995, when they did a building expansion of about 1,200 square feet, the entire building was calculated as professional office. Since then, another owner had purchased the property and had rented some of the space to medical office uses. And although they had filed with the health department, they had not obtained the proper approvals from the town of Islip. My client was unaware of this condition when he purchased it, and he's currently working with Pearl Dental to occupy tenant suite number 1. The town building department had issued them a permit to perform the interior renovations for that tenant, with the condition to legalize the site plan from a parking perspective for the medical office at 1 per 150 versus professional at 1 per 200. Based on the current mix of tenants, there'll be a total of 4,326 square feet of professional office space, 5,131 square feet of medical office space, which will require 56 parking spaces. The site currently has 44. And as mentioned, we're proposing 8 land bank stalls as well as a modification to a row of parking to generate a total of 53 stalls. So we would be 3 stalls short of the code requirement and a 5.36% waiver. In addition, the land bank parking will reduce our overall landscape very slightly. We would be it would be a 1.77% variance, or about 185 square foot shy of meeting the 20% requirement of landscaping overall. They currently did not meet the 50% of that landscaping being in the front yard, and the land bank stalls do not exacerbate that number, so that's an existing condition that would be maintained. Many of these tenants have been existing in this building, so we feel there's sufficient parking without the construction of the land bank stalls, and we feel that the parking waiver is minimal in request, and approval of this application would allow all of their tenants to obtain proper certificate of occupancies or completion.
Thank you. I'm going to turn
Thank
to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report, and if we have any questions, we'll come back. Oh, it's Tanner, I'm sorry. Jumping ahead.
Thank you,
No,
Mr.
it's yours, the next
Thank you,
one.
Mr.
Let's go.
Chairman. This is a GST zone 1.2 acre property. As stated by the applicant, improved with a almost 9,500 square foot multi-tenant commercial building, originally CO'd as a medical arts building in 1973. Uses include 3 medical offices, which is a dentist, physical therapy, and standard medical, as well as 5 professional office units. The prior approved 1971 site plan calculated the parking requirements for the building at 1 per 200, which is the town's professional office ratio. However, the building was CO'd as a medical arts building. Based on the records, there appears to be various discrepancies about medical space versus professional space. However, medical has been CO'd in this building. So this application is for minor site work, ADA striping, and curb ramps, but mainly to formalize all the parking requirements for the uses within the building, which are currently in the building department for certificates of compliance. So based on the uses being legalized, 56 parking stalls are required, 53 are provided, which includes 8 land bank stalls. There's not appear to be a parking issue on site, and should in the future parking issues arise, which are not anticipated, the 8 land bank stalls could be constructed. There is a minor landscaping relaxation that will be required, as the land bank stalls can't be counted towards that number, but no mitigation fee will be assessed because the land banking offsets that fee at a 1-to-1 ratio. So based on the above, staff recommends the board grant the application, subject to finalizing conditions with the applicant to ensure those landscaping figures are accurately solidified.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Any questions for the applicant or Ms. Gonzalez? Not seeing any. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make a motion to grant the application subject to finalizing conditions between the planning department and the applicant.
It's a motion by Mr. Moriarty to grant the application, subject to finalizing the CNRs between the applicant and the planning staff. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Final item on the agenda, let me just find the page here, is, thank you, Mr. Brown. Town Board application recommendation item, Bayport Collision Center, CZ 2023-009, northeast corner of Montauk Highway, State Route 27A and Lakeview Avenue, Bayport, 405 Lakeview Avenue. Applicant requests a modification of architectural requirements in the Bayport Overlay District pursuant to 68-758A. The applicant like to say anything? If not, I will turn directly to Mr. Colgan to give a staff report. I'm going to take that as a no and go right to Mr. Colgan. Mr. Colgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application was last heard on October 16th, 2024, to address the architectural improvements of the existing building. The staff has had multiple meetings and conversations with the applicant since that time, and we've received elevations that comply with the Bayport Overlay District requirements. Based on this, the staff recommends the board to approve the architectural changes as presented.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Not seeing any. Is there a motion? Ms. Cruz.
Okay, I'll make an application to approve the apapplication and approve the architectural changes.
We're going to accept that as a motion, that she's not submitting an application. So a motion from Ms. Cruz to approve the recommendation. Is that the best way to describe her motion? Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The application or recommendation is approved. I just want to recall item 2 on the agenda, which was Mr. Gonzalez's Dominic Martino. I think there was one of the conditions that we did not remove. You know which condition number that was? So can I get a motion to recall that from someone?
Mr. Chairman?
Motion by Mr.
I'd
Brown.
make a motion to recall Dominic Martino application.
Motion by Mr. Brown to recall item 2. Is there a second to that? Second. Second by Mr. Moriarty. All in favor, opposed, we're going to recall that, okay?
Aye.
Tanner, do you know
To waive the landscaping.
what the landscaping fee?
What about the landscaping fee?
Yeah, we were removing that, correct?
Removing the landscaping fee. Oh,
I made the
because-
motion.
But we didn't remove that,
I made the motion which was subject to the, the dumpster.
Oh, the
being
dumpster
approved
staying,
By the,
okay.
an affidavit by the residential property, which was adjacent to the property. But in the motion that I made, I did not mention the waiving the mitigation fee for the landscape.
Okay, so that mitigation fee is being waived, as well as the dumpster remaining
Correct.
based on the affidavit, correct?
correct. So the motion is then by Mr. Brown to
You may want to limit it to just what's around the building, adjacent to the building.
waiving it to what's adjacent to the building?
Yes.
Does that make sense, Mr. Gonzalez? You give me a look like
I'll touch base with Sean.
So that is the motion by Mr. Brown to waive the fees as it relates to landscaping immediately around the
As
building.
well as getting the affidavit from
That's
the
staying,
attorney
right.
property.
That's the only change to it originally, was on Mr. Brown's original motion. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Moriarty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? The amended
Chairman, I'd like to make
motion is
another
approved.
motion.
Mr. Brown?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown to close the meeting. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by whoever said that. All in favor? That's Mr.
Aye.
Ruin. I have to memorize voices. We're adjourned. Thank you.